Hey guys, so finally we got the votes in and everyone chose Pure Evil, Mikael Myers, ex-listener. I am so happy and excited to finally get to reading this. I thought it was the perfect opportunity, you know. Also, I feel a crap ton better and I'm happy I'm finally able to be posting again. I already made like a lot of posts currently where I'm recording this right now. On a Saturday. I made a lot of posts this Saturday. It was crazy. But who knows? I was posting all about some other things and all that, like about how I got a new benefish and all that. But I already made a separate video about that, which I will see very, very soon. I want to go ahead and read what we are and some stuff like that. Anyway. They were childhood friends. Little did YN know that Mikael had grown a strong obsession for the girl. 10 years passed. YN, all grown up, has no memory of Mikael until one Halloween night she will never forget. And by the way, this book was inspired, based off of Rob Zombie's sequel, if you guys know about that. And, you know, who doesn't love Mikael? And we got some fluff in here as well. Period. It's alright. Anyways, let's get straight into it. Chapter 1. And they add a song to it, and every time they add a song to the chapter, I will link it in the description down below so you guys can go check out the song, alright? October 25th, 1963. It was 6 more days until Halloween. YN's favorite day of the year. Costumes, candy, the sound of children's laughter just made YN happy. She was at the local market in Haddon Field scanning the aisles for the perfect Halloween costume. A particular costume caught her eye. "This one, Mommy!" YN called out to her mother that was looking at some other costumes. "That's adorable, sweetie." Her mother gave her a soft smile. They walked over to the cashier and checked out. YN was so excited she could barely wait to get home and try on her new costume. YN got dressed and was brushing her hair out and her teeth until she heard her mom call out, "YN, you're going to be late. Let's go." YN finished brushing her hair and grabbed her bag and rushed down the steps, almost tripping in the process. "All right, let's hurry up now." YN and her mother walked out to the car. YN walked into school. Another day of health, she thought. She walked to her class and sat down next to the blonde boy she always sat next to. They never talked, but she had always wanted to. She didn't know why she couldn't every time she tried. She couldn't even manage to get out a single word out and end up chickening out. Today is the day. The day I will talk to him. I need to stop being such a wimp. She turned her head towards him and finally managed to spit out a couple words. "What are you gonna be for Halloween?" He turned his head and gave her a questioning look. "Are you talking to me?" His face red. She smiled and waited for a response, which she never got. He just turned his head back to his paper, where he was doodling. "Hello?" She tapped his arm with her pencil. He ignored her and she scoffed. "Do you even talk?" He finally mumbled a few words. "What do you want?" The blue-eyed boy sent her an annoyed look. "Finally, I just wanted to talk to you. I know none of the kids like you and wanted to see if you wanted to be friends." YN blurted out and sent him a soft smile. He looked at her confused and a little surprised. "You want to be friends?" He questioned and looked at her as like she was crazy. "Yep." She had a proud look on her face. None of the kids liked him. They spread rumors saying he killed animals and other crazy stuff that kids say about people. YN never believed them, though. She had always thought he was a mysterious, interesting person and always wanted to get to know him. "You know, I don't believe any of those rumors those kids spread," she stated. He stared at her, then finally spoke. "Okay, we can be friends. My name is Michael." "YN." She smiled brightly and held out her hand for him to shake. They shook hands and they both smiled. YN and Mikael hung out for the rest of the day, having long chats about horror movies and Halloween, an interest they both shared. Surprisingly, they both had the same interest, which was great because they ended up both sharing a special bond. No one ever accepted Mikhail for who he was. They always thought he was weird and called him a freak. He ended up having a special connection with Wyan because of this. She accepted him. She didn't think he was weird or any like that. And that's what he liked about her. He has never felt this way about anyone but his baby sister. He wanted to stay talking with Wyan. He hasn't felt this happy in a while, and he didn't want it to end. Wyan and Mikhail were walking home together, and luckily Wyan's house was only a few houses away. They were talking and giggling. Wyan was so happy she finally made a friend. She was proud of herself since she never had a real friend like this before. Her house came into view and she looked at Mikhail. "This is my stop." She frowned a little, and so did he. He hugged her. "Thank you." She hugged him back. "Bye, Mikey." She waved and watched as he walked away. That is kind of cute. I like that. That's kind of cute. Aww. Chapter 2. October 31st, 1963. It was finally Halloween, the day Mikhail and Wyan were waiting for. They planned to go trick-or-treating, then go back to Wyan's house and watch movies, and eat their candy. Wyan had just put on her costume and was examining herself in the mirror. "You look great, honey." Her mother hugged her from behind. "Thanks, Mom," and looked up at her and smiled. "Come on, you don't want to be late for trick-or-treating, do you?" Wyan nodded violently. Wyan waved goodbye to her mom and headed over to Mikhail's house. She saw Mikhail sitting outside, staring into space. He seemed to be in a trance. "Mikey, you okay?" she questioned, a bit concerned. He turned his head towards her, and he seemed to have a little bit of red liquid on his brightly colored costume. "Wyan?" He stood up and examined her form. "You look really pretty." He smiled. "Thank you." She turned around and giggled. "Wyan, will you do something for me?" She looked at him questioningly. "Sure, what is it?" He walked over to her slowly and held her hands. "Run away with me and Boo. We will start a family. Please, Wyan." She stared at him in shock and confusion. "What are you talking about? Mikey, are you feeling okay?" Just then, loud sirens and red and blue flashing lights flooded down the street. "Wyan, we have to go now." He grabbed her wrist and ran towards the front door. He had a good grip on her wrist and she started to wince out in pain. "Mikhail, what is going on?" she cried out from the tight grip on her wrist. He just kept running through the house until a man bursted through the door and called out, "Mikhail, let her go." I cried and whined, "Please, Mikey." "No, she's mine. No one is going to take her away from me." The man, who I assumed was a policeman, rushed over to me and grabbed a hold of Mikhail, and another man rushed into the house and got me, and I finally felt Mikhail's hand loosen off my wrist. "No, let me go. Wyan is mine. No!" he screamed. I sobbed, and the man wrapped me in a blanket and carried me out of the house. I saw my parents outside, and they ran towards me and hugged me. "Wyan, I'm so sorry," was all my mother said until I saw Mikhail being dragged outside the house. He was screaming, and the police had pulled out a tranquilizer and inserted it in him. The screaming died down as my parents put me in the car and drove away. I cried until my eyes were sore and ended up falling asleep. That was the last time I ever saw him. October 23rd, 1973. The sound of my alarm woke me out of my dream. I groaned and rubbed my eyes as I slid out of my bed. I flinched at the touch of the cold floor against my warm skin. I wobbled towards the restroom and examined my frame in the mirror. I looked terrible. Eye bags, messy hair. I was terribly skinny. I hadn't eaten in a while and needed to get something in my system. I brushed my hair and showered it in dry shampoo. You shouldn't do that, by the way. I headed downstairs and I looked in my pantry. Empty. Only a few bags of chips and some granola bars filled the shelves. I grabbed a granola bar. This is definitely not going to fill me up, but it's all I have. I took a bite of it and flavor filled my mouth. Probably the best thing I've ate in a while. I got dressed in my uniform and headed downstairs and grabbed my keys and bag. I rushed to my car and turned on the radio. I flipped through the channels, and to my dismay, there was nothing but old country music. I decided on a talk station and sat and listened to that on my way to work. It's going to be the 10th anniversary of Michael Myers' killing on Halloween night, where the murder of Judith Myers occurred right here in Haddonfield. We hope everyone is safe and is being safe and responsible while trick-or-treating. Michael Myers. The name kept her playing in her mind. She didn't know why it sounded all too familiar. Why is that name so familiar? She shook it off and continued on her way to work. Also, that is so cute. I'm gonna add that as a thumbnail. Chapter 3. Mikael's point of view. Smith Road Sanctuarium. I sat at my desk working on a mask as I listened to the guards chit-chatting outside my cell. My walls were covered in masks I made over the years I've stayed here. They are the only thing that are keeping me from going completely insane. I still think about her sometimes. I still go crazy because of her. She makes me go nuts. I have forgotten the sound of her voice and the feeling of her soft skin on mine. I miss her. I need to see her. She's mine. Only mine. She will be mine. Wine's POV. Haddonfield, Eloise. I was on my lunch break having a small talk with my coworker and friend, FN. Wine, no offense, but you look terrible. Have you been eating and getting sleep? Wine frowned. No, I haven't been doing well, to be honest. I've been having really bad nightmares and I don't have much of an appetite. FN looked at her concerned and had a worried expression on her face. How about we go eat after work? It's on me, so don't worry. No, it's fine. I'll just pick up something on my way home, I stated, hoping she wouldn't worry about me. Are you sure? FN questioned. Don't worry, I'll be fine. I sent her a sincere smile and got up, continued to do my work. I shivered as the cold October weather hit my skin. I rubbed my arms for warmth and rushed over to my car. I sat in my car and turned up the radio. I sat and listened, finally relaxing a bit. So sadly, I can't play this, probably cause of copyright issues, but I'll also be putting this in the link in the description if you guys are willing to do the whole, listening with the thing, I wish I could, but I can't. Anyway, I pulled into an old diner and walked inside, hoping to finally get a good meal into my system. I sat down as I waited for a waiter to come take my order. I looked around and a familiar woman caught my eye. She had blonde hair and looked a little younger than 18. She was laughing and talking with another girl. I had no idea who she was, but I felt a small connection with her. The waiter finally came and took my order, but I couldn't take my eyes off the blonde-haired girl. Who was she? Why did she feel so familiar? Maybe she was someone I knew a long time ago? Questions danced around in my head. It's probably nothing. I looked away and waited for my food. I entered my home. I had just gotten back from grocery shopping and emptied the bags into my pantry. I stopped when I heard a knock on the door. I opened the door and was greeted by my mother. We shared our hellos, and a brown box that read "Wine" at the top of it sat on my porch. What's that? I questioned curiously. I was looking through old stuff and found this. It's all your old stuff when you were little, and I decided I would bring them to you to maybe brighten things up for you since I know you haven't been doing so good. She sent me a contagious smile and I hugged her. Thanks, Mom. I watched as she pulled out of the driveway and I went back to the box. I curiously opened the box and was met with all the memories. My face lit up as I examined all the stuff. A little boy caught my eye and I picked it up and examined it. I opened it up and inside was a picture of a little girl standing next to a blonde-haired boy with the bluest eyes I've ever seen. Those icy blue eyes. I know them from somewhere. I ran my fingers across the photo. Who is this boy and how do I know him? I was so drawn to this photo, I didn't even come to notice I started crying. Warm liquids stained my cheek. Why is this happening? Why am I crying? I set the photo down and wiped my eyes. Who is he? Okay, so this might be from another future thumbnail, so let me, Chapter 4. October 30th, 1973. I jumped at the sound of the toaster going off. I grabbed a plate and put 2 pieces of toast onto the plate. I smeared peanut butter across the toast and poured myself a glass of orange juice. Ooh, I love orange juice. I headed over to the living room and sat my breakfast I'd just made for myself on the side of the table and switched on the television, hoping to have a relaxing morning. Infamous killer Michael Myers escaped from Smith Grove Sanctuarium last night. So be safe and lock your doors and stay inside. And don't do anything stupid while trick-or-treating. Be safe, Haddonfield. He escaped? I questioned myself. I don't really have any plans for Halloween but to stay home and watch movies, so I don't have to worry about all that much. I finished my breakfast and sat my plate in the sink and began washing the dishes until I got that one feeling. I was being watched. I turned my head and examined my surroundings. Nothing. Wine, stop being so paranoid. My thoughts screamed. I'm probably just paranoid because of the news. I shook off the feeling and grabbed my keys and headed to my car. I had to pick up my coworker since our car broke down last night, so we sat and listened to the radio on our way to work. Did you hear? Michael Myers escaped last night, so please be safe or he might come for you while you're sleeping and grope you. My friend snickered as she teased me. Oh, shut it, FN. I slapped her playfully. We made it to work and did our regular thing until a man walked in. He had white hair and cold, icy blue eyes, and he seemed to be on the older side. Have any of you ladies seen this man? He held up a paper that showed a man in a boiler suit with a white mask. We nodded and questioned. Who is he? Michael Myers. He escaped Smith Grove last night and has come back to Haddonfield for his baby sister. If you see him, please contact me. He handed a card that read Samuel Loomis. He walked out and I turned to my friend. God, all this Michael Myers stuff is giving me the heebie-jeebies. I rubbed my temples and formed my lips into a line. Oh, YN, stop worrying it. It's not like he's coming for you. Futureness. Look, you're gonna be fine. Just make sure to lock your doors and not go out, okay? I nodded. I finished my work and drove my friend home. I stopped to get some gas and was filling my car up until I saw something. There was a man in a white mask standing behind a tree, staring in my direction. I looked away and rubbed my eyes. This is not happening. I'm just imagining things. I'm probably going crazy from all this Michael Myers shit. I looked back and nothing. There was no man in a white mask staring back at me. I assumed I was just going crazy and continued to do whatever I was doing. October 31st, 1973. It was finally the day I dreaded the most. I never knew why I hated this holiday. It's just ever since I was little, I've always had a hatred towards this day. I think because there was an accident that happened on this day, but I never knew what it was. I try to remember, but I just can't. Maybe I should try to call my mom and ask her. I dialed her number and waited for her to pick up. Hi, honey, what's up? My mother questioned. Why do I hate Halloween so much? And what happened when I was little? I always try to remember, but I just can't. She was quiet for a few seconds and sighed. Baby, it's better you don't remember. She stated, Mom, just tell me. It's eating me up inside. I need to know. Just tell me. Why is it such a big deal? I explained, getting annoyed and impatient. My mom finally spoke. Okay, fine. She explained the whole story and I was left shocked and confused. Michael Myers was my best friend? I dropped the phone and fell into a panic. I couldn't believe it. No wonder I felt such a connection with him. No wonder his name was so familiar to me. We were childhood friends. It all makes sense now. I breathed heavily and tried to take all this new information I had just heard. I closed my eyes, attempting to redeem myself and calm down. What if he comes back for me? I felt myself about to cry and blinked my eyes, trying to hold back. What if he comes back and takes me and his sister. I remember now he said he wanted to start a family with me and his sister. I need to find her before he does. Oh, shit. Ooh. Chapter 5. October 31st, 1973. I was walking into town to grab a few things until I passed by a certain display window, and a book sat in the window, and it read Devil's Eyes by Dr. Samuel Loomis. Samuel Loomis. That's the man that was at my work looking for Michael. I walked into the shop and picked one of the books and examined it. The story of Michael Myers. My eyes widened as I flipped through the pages and everything made sense to me now. Loomis was Mikhail's psychiatrist. That's why he was looking for him. I continued flipping and stopped on a page that showed a young girl with blonde hair. That's the girl I saw at the coffee shop. Angel Myers. Mikhail Myers' baby sister. She now goes by Laurie Strode and is living with her new family in Handlefield. Insert address. I knew I felt such a connection with her. Such a connection to her. I knew I wasn't crazy. I purchased the book and headed over to Strode's house. I knocked on the door and waited for an answer. A young female answered the door. Can I help you? She said as her curls bounced behind her. I introduced myself and she let me in to talk. We sat on the sofa and I explained everything to her and showed her the book. She had a horrified and confused expression onto her face as she took in all this information. So I'm his sister? She choked out as she clenched her hands into a fist. Yes, and he's coming for you and me tonight. So we need to make a plan so we can't let him take us, Laura. She began to cry. I don't understand. Why is he doing this? She grabbed her hair in frustration and her blue orbs filled with tears. I'm so sorry, Laurie. But we need to stick together. That's all that matters right now. She finally agreed and we made a plan. Time skip. 6 p.m. We decided we would stay at her house and watch movies since Laurie had to babysit her friend's sister, Lindsay Wallace. Alright, Lindsay, I think it's time for you to head home. Laurie stated. No. Lindsay whined. Oh, come on. You can finish the movie when you get back home. Laurie chimed. Oh, fine. Lindsay scoffed. We walked over to Laurie's house, Annie, since she only lived across the street. Laurie grabbed the door handle. Annie, I'm coming in. You better look decent. We walked in, and it was pitch black. Laurie switched on the light, and Lindsay shrieked. My eyes finally adjusted to the light, and my eyes widened at the sight of a man hanging from a noose at the top of the stairs. Annie! Laurie exclaimed in a panic. I covered my mouth in shock as I trembled at the horrific sight. Annie was laying on the floor, covered in blood, begging help. Lindsay, go! Call the cops, go! Laurie screamed. Lindsay didn't hesitate and ran outside screaming and begging for help. Laurie tried to comfort her friend, and I stood there not knowing what to do, but I knew he was here. Laurie ran to the kitchen and dialed the police, and I stood in front of Annie crying, trying to comfort her so she would calm down. I saw the door closing slowly in the corner of my eye and shot my head around to see a very tall man in a white mask standing over me. I knew exactly who it was. Michael. I whispered as I began to tremble and fell backwards in fear. Laurie! Annie sobbed. I finally got the courage to get up and bolted towards the kitchen. Laurie, we have to get out of here now! I shouted at her and grabbed her. We both turned towards the front door, only to be greeted by Mikhail slowly making his way towards us. We stumbled backwards and bolted towards the back door as we choked on our tears. And to our dismay, the back door was locked. Mikhail began sprinting towards us, and Laurie grabbed a chair and slammed it against the back door, shattering the glass. We ran out of the house screaming for help, hoping to get the neighbors' attention. We continued running and ran back to Laura's house. We slammed the door and locked it, only for it to be broken down by, you guessed it, Michael. We ran upstairs, almost tripping in the process, and locked ourselves in the restroom while we sobbed quietly. Everything's gonna be okay, I whispered as I squeezed her hand and gave her a crooked smile, trying to calm her down a little. But as you know, not all stories have a happy ending. And not even a minute later, Mikhail was outside the door, banging, trying to get in. Go away! Laurie choked and sobbed. But of course he refused and slammed all of his weight against the door, causing the door to come down. We covered our faces and sobbed quietly onto our hands, awaiting our doom. Also, yeah, I agree that this is higher than that. Anyway. Chapter 6. October 31st, 1973. You shivered as the cold, dirty floor touched your skin. You glanced around and you had no clue where you were. And then all the memories started flooding back to you. You examined the room. It seemed to be abundant and old. Walls were torn down. The ceiling was caving in. It was terribly dirty and worn down. In one corner there was a cross that read that read Myers, and a pumpkin sat next to it. I was startled by a shuffling from another corner. Lori! She was curled up in a ball, shivering and mumbling to herself. I scurried over to her and shook her. Lori, wake up. It's okay, I whispered. She woke up and looked up at me with her blue orbs. She finally took in her surroundings and let out an ear-piercing scream. Shh! I covered her mouth and looked at her with fear in my eyes. He might come back, I said. Just then I saw something move in the shadows. I shot my head in the other direction. I watched in horror as a tall figure stepped out of the darkness. It was Michael. I scurried back and was scared to scream. He slowly walked over to us, and we dared not to move. I gripped Lori's hand and waited for him to do something. He crouched down in front of you and stared into your orbs. You stared back into his icy blue orbs. Just for a moment, things seemed peaceful. You kind of felt safe. Finally, you and Mikhail snapped out of what seemed to be was a staring contest, and he reached for his pocket. You were expecting a knife, but instead you were greeted with a small Polaroid picture. He held it out to you, and it seemed worn out. It was a picture of a blonde-haired boy, which I assumed was Mikhail, and a little girl, which was me, and I was holding a small baby. He shoved it towards Lori and pointed at the baby. She had a confused and scared expression on her face. I don't understand, she trembled. He just kept pointing at the baby in the picture. Mikey, she doesn't remember. She was just a baby, I stated, and hoped he wouldn't be upset. He seemed to tense up at the nickname she called him so long ago. He hadn't heard her call him that name in such a long time. He felt his face warm up. He hated how hair color, but I'm not gonna brown bleh, girl always knew how to make him weak. She was the light in his darkness. She made him feel full again. He did notice how much she grew up. She looked so beautiful all grown up. She loved all her curves, the way her orbs seemed to glow every time she smiled. Even if her hair was a mess and she had dark bags under her eyes, she was still the most perfect girl to him. He finally snapped out of his trance and grunted and shoved the picture towards the blonde-haired girl once again. I'm sorry, I just don't understand. Wyan watched as Lori's hand slowly reached for the knife that sat next to Michael. She finally got a grip on the knife. I don't understand, you motherfucker! She threw her arm up and stabbed him in the shoulder. Lori, no! I shouted, afraid of what was about to come next. The girl bolted towards the door, attempting to escape, only to be greeted by a barbed fence preventing her from escaping. Mikhail groaned and held his shoulder in pain. I ran towards the door and tried to help Lori get the fence open. Go, go, go! I yelled. A large hand grabbed a chunk of the blonde girl's curls and pulled her back. She winced out in pain and threw her legs around and struggled to get out of the large man's grip. Mikhail, no! Let her go, please! And of course, he refused and ignored my request and threw her against the stone wall. She shrieked and held her body in pain and begged for her life. I sobbed, Mikhail, please! I grabbed his arm and attempted to pull him back. He glanced back at me, and I gazed into his icy blue eyes and saw no life. He might have the prettiest blue eyes you could Just get lost in, but do not let those eyes deceive you. He pushed me back, which sent me flying. I cried out in pain as I watched him grab Lori by the neck and watch the life run out of her eyes. I felt weak, useless. Lori, I'm so sorry, I whispered to myself as I began to feel my body give out and fall into a deep sleep. The idiot has fallen in love with the big murder man. That is practically everyone who's watching this. I see you. I see y'all. Anywho, I honestly hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm surprised I already read 6 chapters. They're pretty short, but really nice to read. I like it. So I was like, damn, I read a lot. I'm proud of myself. Okay. Anywho, I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think will happen next in the comments down below. Do you think that he will kill his baby sister? And do you think that or do you think he won't? I think he will. But let me know in the comments down below what you think. Anywho, your girls gotta go. But I hope you guys already have. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more amazing videos. Because, you know, there will be more amazing videos, period. So, yeah, I'm so excited. Yes, period. If you guys have any more requests or anything for the future, please let me know in the comments down below as well. There will be a link to the story, obviously, in the description. There always will be. I will start to add the author's name and the whole stories. Well, not the whole story style, because it has like a completely different name. But I will add at least the author's name. So if you guys cannot find this story, I will let you know where I got it from and the author's name where to find the story much easily. So if that helps you guys, because I know like sometimes the link doesn't work. So I'm going to try and make it easier for you guys, because, you know, I'm all about, you know, do it the easy way, not the hard way. You know how it is. Plus, like, the titles are already what the story actually is, you know, called, except like for the listener part, you just change it to reader, and that's what it's legitimately called. You know, just cut out the chapter, etc. what I put, and that's it. That would be the title. Not too hard, is it? Anywho, your girls gotta sadly go. I hope you enjoy your guys' day, and I hope everyone has a chillax day, morning, wherever I post this in your area. Your girl got to go. Bye and peace.